Okay, I think one of the greatest pitfall is living till too late to hand over. So that would put the family in a spot as to whether is dad passing down the business, who's going to be in charge, who's going to run the company, who's going to make decisions, and are they given a choice to sell it if they don't want to take over, for example. I think first things first, is to have a conversation with your partners, your shareholders, okay? What should it look like, okay? So in the event if I'm not around anymore, if I'm gone, do I want my family to come in and take over my share of the business? Or should they want to buy them out, for example? So they are usually given the first right of refusal, to buy them out, okay? So the question is, so we really have a conversation amongst shareholders. How should this look like, okay, if I'm not around anymore? Or for that matter, if they are not around anymore, then do I want to take over their shares? Okay, so taking over shares means buy them out lah. Buy them out means what? What's the price? What's the value? Okay, how much am I prepared to pay for? Okay, market value or what's the net worth, for example? So we have to decide how to calculate the worth of the business at a point in time when one of us is no longer around. Okay, so we have to have that agreement. In that, if anything happens to you, I will buy you over. If I go, you buy me over, so that my family don't have to worry about coming in to run the business and all that. So to be paid their shares worth, my shares worth to them, back to them. So what they get back is the values worth, not in terms of shares of company and having the idea of coming in to run the business, for example. So this conversation is important. We all need to have an understanding amongst ourselves. Better still, seal it with a buy and sell agreement. Okay, so very simple. If I die, my family will sell my shares to you guys. So you guys must buy. Okay, and buy at what price? Okay, will you pay a lump sum? Will you pay by installment? So we must have this conversation, must have this agreement prior to things happening. So one of the things I feel that we should all agree upon is to have a proper buy and sell agreement. Okay, somebody tongue-in-cheek call it a business will. So it's literally writing down who's going to take over the shares of the company, who's going to sell out, who's going to buy out, who's going to pay at what value. Everything will be stipulated in that document. Because this part of the asset is even more complex. So in some instances, we might be sharing this same asset with some other shareholders, with some other partners, okay? But yet, upon my demise, I would like to pass this asset to somebody, to my family, preferably. If not, if they don't get involved in the business, maybe to sell it to my partners or my shareholders in exchange for some money's worth, okay? And then to pass it down to my loved ones. So if you ask me how important is it, I would say to you, it is just as important as writing a will, okay? Writing a business will or a buy and sell agreement is also equally important. Because once we are gone, nobody knows what are my thoughts, who I want to succeed the business, who I want to take over the business. Should they sell out at what kind of price? So all these have got to be documented ahead of time before things happen. And then because there are also other shareholders also, they may also have their own thoughts as to exactly what they want out of this agreement. Maybe no family gets involved, it's just a sell out, and then family just receive in cash form in exchange for the shares of the company. So it is very much depending on how the other shareholders or partners sees how they want to exit the business. Okay, some want family to take over, some prefer family just sell out and then just cash in. So that's why this document is so important, because without documenting down my thoughts and the thoughts of my other shareholders, then when things happen, it can get a bit dicey, it can get a bit complicating, because nobody knows what exactly do we want. And that's where things become a bit challenging. Sometimes family takes each other to court. Sometimes fellow shareholders take each other to court because nobody knows exactly what's happening. Yeah, and then whether eventually you sell out, is your family getting a good deal or a raw deal? Okay, so that's why even the agreement need to stipulate what sort of worth of the company shares if we were to sell out, so that family also don't get into the wrong end of the bargain. Yeah, so it's documenting down all this properly in that agreement. Okay, I think one of the greatest pitfall is leaving till too late to hand over. So that would put the family in a spot as to whether is dad passing down the business, who's going to be in charge, who's going to run the company, who's going to make decisions, and are they given a choice to sell it if they don't want to take over, for example. So sometimes leaving till too late, you're not giving your children choice or whether to do it or not, and then to do it, how to do it, which of the siblings is going to be in charge, who's going to be calling the shots, that kind of complication. Yeah. Then of course there are others. So maybe, for example, dividing the business equally among all the children, for example. What if there are those who are not involved in the business? Are they also going to be given a share? For those who are given shares in the business, are they going to be running the show? So all these questions will have to be answered. So this is where you, through planning, you're able to then decipher which of the kid is best to take over the business, which of the kid is best to just play a supporting role, for example, which kid should be left out of the business. So all these have to be thought through. Yeah. And of course, maybe in most instances, being Asian family, sometimes not trusting your children enough to give them a free hand in running the business. Okay, so maybe dad, mom still want to be in charge, still want to call the shots, still want to be making decisions, for example. So not letting go the responsibilities to the younger generation. Okay. Maybe sometimes also because most Asian business owners still don't have the idea of letting their children know their plan. Okay, so maybe keeping it secretive, maybe not letting them know ahead of time, so that they could also plan their career as well, to do or not to do, or should they go out and get experiences before they come back and take over from that. Okay, so it is another concern. Another one could be maybe they are so used to calling the shots, making decisions, do things and all that. So sometimes the mistakes they make is actually planning it by themselves without getting any advice from anybody. So everything they do, they say, they decide by themselves without any consultations from anybody. Okay. Maybe another could be not talking to their shareholders. Okay. So if something happens to them, would their family be coming in to take over the share of the business, or would they prefer to sell it to their partners? Okay. And even if they decide to sell to the partners, at what price should it be sold at? Okay, at what price should it be sold at? Maybe also sell to whom? Okay. And if not, then if the children would take over the business, if the spouse would take over the business, then do they have a choice of selling it to the surviving shareholders and sell at what price? Okay, so all this have got to be decided ahead of time before anything happens. Yeah. So these are all the common succession planning mistakes. Yeah.